Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Fixed Ops Mastermind, powered by OEM Interactive. This is a We Are Week, Women Educating in Automotive Retention and Excellence. And I have my two guests, April Simmons and Lori Halter, here with us. And we're going to talk about marketing yourself to benefit the industry and what that means to get your personal brand built and how it can help the company that you're actually working for. Before we get started, this show is brought to you by IntelliCheck. Do you know the pain points that caused customers to leave? Would you like to know if your advisors are offering to book appointments, quoting prices, and interacting with your customers as you expect? With IntelliCheck, you can know it all and have a plan to fix it. And with that, we get into the show, which is broken into three segments. Segment one is what is marketing and why do I need it? Segment two is how does a personal brand help the dealership or the group? And segment three is some takeaways for all the audience members that are watching so they can go and start to build themselves up to help the industry. April and Lori, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to be here, my friend. I get to spend some time with my favorite people. What a great way to spend lunch. I hope we've got a lot of people joining us.
Absolutely. It's a good time. April, as an aside, I was on Jim Ziegler's show yesterday, and April and Lori, he sends his regards to you both. So
love Jim.
It's on my favorite.
And so let's start with marketing and what is it? Why do we need it? What are some misconceptions that people have around marketing yourself?
Lori, I'll let you take that one first, as I think I have to answer that question.
Sounds good. And I'm so sorry, guys. I have a bit of a lag, so we're going to make this work. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions is probably when people assume, especially the dealer side, that they're going to lose their employees to having a personal brand. That happens all the time. I hear it all the time. And so I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions. And then I would say the other one that I hear from the content creator side is they believe that they can't get started. They don't think they're smart enough. They don't think they have enough of the content. They don't think they have enough interesting things to say. And April can actually attest to this herself, because when I first connected with April, she wasn't even on LinkedIn. And look at her now. And I remember telling her, I just said, look, girl, you've got interesting things to say. You have interesting things to share, and you need to be on LinkedIn. And so I think those, from the dealer side, they're afraid someone's going to get poached. From the creator side, they're afraid they don't have interesting enough things to say.
Yeah, those are actually really valid points, because she's absolutely right. First of all, I didn't join LinkedIn because my number one reason was because I knew I was going to get all the vendors trying to sell me stuff, right? Like, and it's already hard enough when you look at my email and all the different things, like how many people, and that's what they do. And I remember telling them, I said, Lori, and there was a couple other girls in the conversation. I said, the problem is all these people are going to want to sell me stuff then. And they were like, oh, just ignore them. I'm like, see, that's where I always had a hard time with that. I'm like, I have to just be like, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. And I'm sorry, I'm not interested. And I just didn't have time for that. I'm like, I don't have time for it. So I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions, as you were talking, is that the time. I think a lot of people don't realize the value, and I know we're going to get more into value, but because you don't see the value in doing it, it becomes, why should the dealership support it? Yeah. Whether it be from a time perspective or a money perspective, why would they support it if they don't realize that there are advantages to your individual people actually going out and building a brand name for themselves? So yep. I think that's probably the biggest myth, is just truly not even understanding that there is actually advantages in today's social world, whether we're talking LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram, right? Like, we're talking about any of this stuff, that it's important. People buy from people. So your people going out and being people-y actually helps the company.
Yep.
I like that, being people-y.
Can we lots of technical terms from you?
This is our next hashtag on LinkedIn, right? Be
Yeah.
people.
Absolutely. I think it's a great point, Lori, that dealerships get fearful that their people are going to get poached.
Yeah.
I've worked at dealerships that didn't want to put up a page with their team on it because of that, because they thought other local people would go in there and find them and then poach them. It's like, it's really easy. Like, it's a 10-minute drive down the road. They just have to walk in.
Right.
Well,
and to be honest, I mean, it's a valid fear, right? It's valid. But I think the thing is, and April can speak to this as well, she's been trying to be poached a million times because she's amazing. It's if you're creating an environment where your employees want to stay, you don't have to worry about that. And so they're going to be online. They're going to be creating their personal brand no matter what. The question is, are you working with them or against them? Are you making it work for your dealership or not work for your dealership?
Right.
Bingo. And holding them back is actually one of the big feathers that then says, maybe I'm not in the right culture. Maybe I'm not with the right people. Because they don't want me to like let my wings down at all. So, I do think you have to be real careful if you are not supporting that, there's more opportunity that they're going to actually go try to find somebody who will. So in the trying to protect, you're actually probably supporting them leaving.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely a great point. And so as somebody starts to get out there and starts to build their brand, what are some of the components of a good strategy to do that? Do they just create an account on LinkedIn and just start posting anything, or should they be more strategic about that?
I'm sure there's supposed to be a strategy, but I'm kind of like a just whatever kind of person.
Me too.
So listen, that's actually such a good point. All three of us are pretty, good content creators in our own right. And I think all three of us just jumped in, right? I totally jumped in with the careering podcast and stuff and supporting automotive women. Like I had no idea what I was doing when I first started. And this would have been like 2020. So it's really, or 2021, I think. It really wasn't that long ago. But I would say as a brand marketer, I need to like put in the caveat that start, like that's the number one is start. But I think it would be worthwhile to sit down at some point and say, okay, what do I want to stand for? When people find me, what do they want? When they see my content, what do they want to think about? And then to have some type of maybe common theme or thread that runs through all of the content. But I'll say, if that keeps a person in, analysis paralysis, don't do that. The best thing is jump in and start creating content, but do sort of think about what you want to be known for.
And I'm going to go kind of like in another direction here with that question, because I don't really create any content really that much at all. If you really just went to April Simmons' page and you look at what I have actually created, it's virtually zero. I mean, I have some stuff, don't get me wrong. There's few.
But it's just all clips of April on different interviews, right?
Right.
Well, and that's just it. Like, I think what happened for me was more organic. And what really happened is when I got on LinkedIn, I started seeing things that Dave Foy posted or Lori posted or other industry expert posted. And I was very engaging with it because I loved that. Like, I'm like, ooh, people are speaking my language. And, and I would comment, and it wasn't a comment of just like a thumbs up or, yeah, I got you, dude. It was like a thoughtful, hey, this is my thought on what you said. And I hear what you said. And I think having that be considered content is undervalued in this space, because now it's not just the person who posted that sees your comment. It's everyone else who comments also sees that comment. And you're starting to build a relationship of getting to know people based on comments. And from there, that's when people, would be like, hey, are you willing to jump on a podcast to talk about this? Because, we're aligned. We have we have a common thought process about things. And that's really where the majority of my content has kind of come from, is other people like Dave today doing all the hard work and creating amazing graphics and doing all the stuff. And me just kind of coming in and saying, all right, let's chat about some stuff. So I think that there's, a lot of different ways to skin the cat when we talk about content. But I think sometimes people like myself, I I get held back because I'm not the greatest at graphics, or I'm not the greatest at some of those kind of things. You don't have to be. I think it's more about the human connection. Again, I'm going to like probably hashtag people a lot, because I do think it is that person to person connections you're making on LinkedIn that is actually creating that personal brand. It's not even so much about the coolest graphic or the coolest piece of, razzmatazz. That might be.
I love that too. And just to follow up on that, I think that's a really good point, going back to your original question, Dave. Like, maybe if you're afraid to kind of just jump full in, a nice way to dip your toe in is to what April is saying, like respond to people with comments, like connect in different ways. We don't have to all be posting our personal life stories on online all the time, LinkedIn all the time. It's like sometimes, like April's saying, it's even more important, to be honest, to connect with people in the comments section and create thoughtful, thought-provoking things in the comments than sometimes creating your own posts.
Yeah, I think it's an absolutely great point, and you're right, April. It is an undervalued part of it. It's called social media, right? Even LinkedIn is still a social media site, right? And in a social setting, you typically don't go and just listen to somebody speak, right? You're usually engaging back and forth with that person, and that's what those comments are. And nobody wants to come to LinkedIn and just see posts from April, posts from Lori, posts from Dave with no comments below, and never see us anywhere else.
Yeah.
Right. But the comments is what allows you to now speak on something that maybe you wouldn't have written about. Right. But that you still have an opinion on. It's a place.
And sometimes it can generate your own post, right? So I've seen the comments section and then I'm like, oh, this is really a good topic. I think I'm going to write something about this now. So there's that too.
I've done.
Well, and then I love to just, and I know it's probably not as awesome in the algorithm, but like a lot of times with stuff like that, Lori, I'll share the original post because I want to give credit where credit's due, right? Like if somebody wrote something that I find to be truly amazing, I'm sharing that, and then I'm putting my own thoughts to it, so that the first thing you're seeing is basically my comment, but at the top. But I'm also saying, hey, look at this amazing, thought-provoking thing that I came across.
That's
that's extremely important, and I think it's something that the LinkedIn algorithm doesn't give enough weight to. Right, when people are resharing and reposting other people's things, that should be telling LinkedIn, hey, this is important to people.
They're engaged,
and they should show it to more people.
Yeah, unfortunately, in the algorithm, that usually is undervalued. But I will say, like, I think all three of us, April and I have definitely had this discussion, and Dave, I think you and I have too. I don't really care about the algorithm. I think the less you care about the algorithm and the more you actually try to genuinely relate to other people, the algorithm's just going to push you up anyway because you're doing all the right things.
Bingo. Yeah. I mean, and I've never, like, I don't even know what the algorithm is. I hear little bits and pieces from people here and there. They're like, oh yeah, so like you should do it this way, because I'm like, man, I don't care. But and to that point, I mean, I think back to probably my highest reached post ever was a Labor Day post, from a couple of years ago on,
I remember that.
Almost 2 years ago on Labor Day. I had posted this, that I was, the one person here working, right? And everyone's posting about their barbecues and different things. And, and I have a tendency to sometimes get a little jealous in those moments of, being on the retail side and having to work. And then I was like, no, this is a mindset thing. Like, I need to be so thankful, especially as a woman in this world, that I have the ability to do what I love, and I get to labor the way that I want to. And I kind of did a whole post about it. And that was like, I mean, you're talking about people being off, like who's on LinkedIn or barbecuing and having a good time. And yet that ended up being probably to date my highest engaged post that I've ever done. Ever. So, I think when you start to get past the surfacey stuff that we do sometimes, just because we're, got to have enough content, I still say, quality will always trump quantity. every day of the week. I believe that in what I do in sales and the internet sales departments and stuff. I just believe that quality is always going to be better than quantity. Not that you don't need to have quantity, but I'd rather see 2 posts that are amazing versus 10 posts that are like, well, like that's a waste of my time, right? Like give me the show, not the commercial.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yep. I completely agree there also. I'm going to do a lot of agreeing today, I think. So the last part of our first segment here. So how can a dealership help to integrate people's personal brands into their own marketing?
Yeah. April, I'm going to let you take this because you do it fantastically at home.
I think it is the hardest thing in the whole wide world to actually do. Now, for me personally, it's not hard. Like I realized right out the gate that in order for my group to fully support me wanting to do this, like it has to be a benefit to them, right? I can't just be like, oh, I want to go do all these things and then not tell you that I work for Horn Auto Group and here's Horn Auto Group and it's Horn Auto Group. And yes, I'm willing to do this, but can you make sure it says Horn Auto Group, right? And just understanding that was a big piece of being able to put myself out there, is knowing that I'm representing a brand. And that's the other thing. You got to know that you're representing a brand, you know, always be putting your brand out there. And you know, I did a speaking engagement at Digital Dealer one year, and I had, you know, a pivot shirt because that was a comment on it, and then, you know, my Bighorn logo on it. And I always try to wear things and you know, even like right now, right, I've always got my jacket right here that says Horn. And you know, I think that goes a really long way, because now a lot of people know who Horn Auto Group is that maybe didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's a really big advantage that I recognize just kind of, again, organically. But where I really struggle is getting other people inside my group to understand the advantages of building a personal brand, right?
Yeah.
Even down to like salespeople. It is the hardest thing in the world for me to get them to post stuff on social media. It is, you would think I'm asking them to, you know, pull 3 of their teeth out once a week, because they don't see the advantages of it. They can't see the forest through the trees. So I think that's something that is genuinely difficult for me, is getting people to want to do it and to understand that it is worth their time to do it, and the, you know, rewards that can come back and fall on your plate because you did it. So that's for me the hardest part.
I think you're so spot on too. And I think the more we usher in this new, and I know this gets into your next section, Dave, but like just this idea that really for salespeople, especially, they're building their own sales channel. They're literally creating a lead gen machine coming into them at the dealership. So I think this next phase of kind of personal branding, we're going to see the rise of the little micro influencers, right? And how that's going to affect. And so I think salespeople, the really good salespeople, hopefully, are seeing this as like a huge way to funnel business straight into them at the dealership.
A million%, Lori. I mean, a good example. I worked for Toyota for 15 years, and I thought, like, when I left Toyota, I'm like, man, I'm gonna lose such a big customer base, right? Because Toyota people are loyal as loyal can be, right? They've got one of the highest loyalty from consumers of any brand. And so here I left. And all of a sudden, my phone's a ringing. It's a text messaging. It's, hey, I stopped at the store. You're not there. Where are you? And I'm like, I'm not with Toyota, unfortunately, anymore. You know what the next question people ask me?
Where do I find you?
Where are you?
What do you sell now? Okay. People were willing to change the brand of the car that they purchased to purchase a vehicle from me. And that's not in every instance, but it just goes to show that the personal brand trumps the dealership. It trumps the
100%.
OEM. It actually trumps everything. If you build good personal connection with consumers, they'll follow you more than they'll follow anything else. Yet we put the least amount of value into our humans of all the things. Like, you think about all the marketing things we talk about, it's the thing we put the least value in, but actually is the most important.
Totally. Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
All those salespeople that don't want to create those personal brands, you could probably, after they say, no, I don't want to post on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, you could
Right.
then say, what's your greatest source of business? And they're probably going to tell you referrals.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Totally.
And
Exactly.
now they need to realize that those two mesh together.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
It's a way to
And
get.
again, it's just that always be branding, right? I was the person who would wear my jacket to go get groceries just to see how many people would ask me about what is that, and hand out cards everywhere. Like, I don't need to have a 3-hour conversation about, yeah, I want to sell you a car. It's just when you're out and about and you're smiling and saying hi to people, just making sure that they know. Well, social media has made that so much easier, and that's why I'm mind blown why people don't do it. Like, I can literally build my own billboard to tell everyone and everyone's friends that this is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And it's the scariest part for people to come into a dealership is to not know somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
So let them get to know you, and then they want to do business with you. So, and I don't care whether you're in a dealership or you're a vendor. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of vendors watching. That's a big part of it too. I want to do business with people I know because I trust that what they're then selling me is going to be legit, that I'm not getting sold fluffy duffy crap, but rather they're going to hold up to what they told me because I feel like we've had a relationship built.
I'm shaking my head because this goes back to the original where I'm like, watch April get poach requests by 100 different people after this interview, right? But yeah, spot on.
And
mostly for her technical terms like peoply and fluffy duffy.
Yes,
exactly.
I'm telling you, I actually bought, somebody was like they were dying laughing so much about this fluffy duffy crap because I was like, this year it's just been so much of it, like, oh, let's sell you all this. And I'm like, do people even know what they're buying anymore? Like, what are we signing up for? Like, how is that helping me sell cars? Exactly. And so it was so funny. I actually went on and said, okay, if I ever do my own podcast, that's what I'm going to call it. It's Fluffy
Duffy. I love it.
All right, so that takes us into segment 2, and segment 2 is brought to us by AWN Inc., Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated. And segment 2, I will remind everybody, was how does a personal brand help the dealership or group? And it dovetails into exactly what we were talking about. And so let's get a definition of what a personal brand is, because I think the name itself is somewhat problematic to a dealership or a group, and it doesn't necessarily mean personal. Does not have to mean personal. I was talking to Glenn Lundy yesterday, and I asked him to describe what personal brand meant, and he kept using the word we and our, and I'm like, okay, there was no I in there at all. So
his personal brand is collaboration, right? So Glenn Lundy's personal brand is collaboration. That's the best example you could give of a personal brand.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, and I always like to use analogies when I try to think of how to describe something. When I think of personal brand, I think April Simmons is April Simmons. She is closely tied and related to Hornado Group.
Yes.
April Simmons is April Simmons, who is married to Dana Simmons, right? Like, so I am my own person, but I am married to, X. And so like we are a we, right? My husband and I are a we, but I am still a separate human as well. So I think personal branding is saying, hey, this is who I am, what I think, what I believe, all the things, but I'm representing the we. Like everything I do is about the common good of the we, but I'm the one stepping out and saying, this is me.
I love that. And that's such a good distinction, because I think, two things about this question. One is, I think when I hear people say, I don't have a personal brand, you 100% do. If you don't know what it is, you're just not in control of it. So every single person has a personal brand, and it may or may not be what you want it to be. So the first way to go about finding that out is ask friends and your associates and coworkers, what do you think of when you think of me? Right. And so that is your personal brand, whether you like it or not. But to April's point, I mean, I think I work with a lot of companies that are afraid to let their employees go out and have their personal brands because they're afraid that their behaviors and some of the posts are not going to align. And so I think it's really important, and the responsibility falls on the individual to exactly what April is saying. Yes, you are your own personal brand. However, you also do influence the brands of everything around you, whether that's family, the company you work for, the friends that you keep, the conferences you speak at, the podcast you go on. So it really is very important when people start building their personal brand to realize you're not an island. It will affect in a positive or negative way, every other thing that you're doing.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a great distinction. I love the way you described that, April, with the marriage. It's a perfect description of what your personal brand is when it's connected to a company or a dealership group. And Lori, the realization that the behavior of the individual can still reflect on the company is very real. And in addition to maybe having an employee poached, I'm sure that some of the concerns of some of the dealerships that they're
and they're valuable. I mean, I've had some people post some stuff where I'm like, oh, that's really, really bad, right? And you've got to go like yank it right away because it completely doesn't align with things. It's going to happen. And I think the most important thing that we can all do is educate your employees on what that personal brand is and how you can say, hey, here's when you're being personal.
Yep.
And how do you control to maintain that personal is not tied to the brand? And now personal brand, which is tied to the brand, here's your guardrails, right?
Yes.
Here's what we don't talk about, right? We don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics. We don't have that space when I'm tied to the brand. I can say whatever I want if it's just me. Like, you have that right. But once you tie yourself to the brand, you no longer have that right. You have to put the brand first. Just like we would put our kids first, we would put our spouse first. You have to put the brand first when you're doing that. And then if you have a problem person, you're gonna have some. Like I hate that so much that we say, well, we're not going to allow it because this one time at band camp, somebody decided to do the wrong thing. And, that's then we make all of our decisions based on the exception and not the rule. The rule is that the majority of humans, if you give them some guardrails, will adhere to that and thrive in that. The problem is, yes, you're still going to have problems. So what is your contingency? If somebody does something wrong, how do you get it taken down immediately? As quickly as possible. Yeah. Because you can do that, right? I see somebody put something stupid on there. I reprimand them. I erase it immediately. And I hope that only 2 people saw it.
Yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. When we work with agencies, I always say, or, dealerships or clients or vendors, I always say number one thing you do not do is handcuff your employees by posting things. That's not the right of that company. But what you can do and what you should do is put some rules and, like you're saying, April, some guardrails around what is and is not acceptable. That's 100% valid for any of your personal brand creators.
All right. It's
well, these ladies are like really firing at me this morning.
I knew we would not have a problem filling time today. That I knew was not going to be an issue.
Never.
So I'm brand new. I don't have. Maybe I have a LinkedIn account, but I haven't really done anything with it. Facebook, whatever it is. This is for me. I'm an introvert. When I told my wife I was starting a podcast, she was like, who are you? So for the person who is introverted, doesn't maybe feels like they don't have anything to say, or is just overall hesitant about starting, how do we talk to them about embracing that, and what should they start doing to get going?
Well, I like what April said at the beginning. A really, really easy way is just slip on into the comments, right? Things that are interesting to you, follow people that you like. The other thing that is not given enough value is messaging someone if they put a post together that you really like and just saying, hey, I really loved what you said. Thank you so much for putting that out there. I mean, that is so undervalued.
Mhm.
But again, it's social. Let's be social about it. So if
Right.
someone's nervous about putting up their own posts, I think commenting in the comment section is huge.
And to that point, Dave, I really do as well. Most people are shocked by this. I'm actually an introvert.
Okay, I don't believe you too.
And
Because
people really don't. But it's, it's one of those things that, so I actually had somebody finally figure this out. They're like, the reason that you come across as an extrovert is because you're actually just an A personality, which just means you're controlling. And so your need, have your voice heard actually trumps your introverted space. So, but I truly am actually an introvert. And so to that point, I think that is what held me back in a lot of ways is like, I'm like, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Because I get in my head and I overthink everything, every scenario, every A and B that could happen. And I really, if somebody says something negative to me, like it'll stick with me. And so, there's some things like that I didn't want to put myself out there because I didn't want to have that happen. So that's a lot of the reason why I've done what I've done. The comments and the things like that, because as you get the interaction, your confidence gets boosted. As your confidence gets boosted, you start to feel like, oh, hey, okay, maybe I can put that imposter syndrome aside and actually kind of step into my own and put myself out there a little bit more. So starting somewhere by, and this is sales 101 to me, like marketing and sales are basically the same playbook, honestly. I teach my guys, like, you have to give to get. And that's I don't care whether I'm trying to sell via email, whether a customer walks in the showroom, the first thing I'm going to do is always offer to give, whether it be a glass of water, whether it be information, whether it be a thank you, no matter what. I am never going to ask anybody for anything if I have not put enough deposits in the bank first. You have to give to get. So I think that if you take that approach in LinkedIn or any other social media platform, that you actually give to other people first, then it becomes easy to kind of step out and say, okay, now this is where I am, because now you're going to have the cheerleaders because you've given all these other people all of this stuff. So now they're going to be like, well, she commented on every post I've had for the last year. She now posted something. Boom, boom, boom. People feel obligated to give back because you gave so freely.
Yep, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, and that goes anywhere in life, right? that's you've got to give to get, and I can't remember who said the quote, but you can have anything you want in life if you help enough others to get what they want. It's that premise that you're working on. The more you put into others, the more others will put into you. And it may not specifically be like, it may not be me pouring comments into April and April giving back to me, but somebody seeing comments on April's post then starts commenting on my post, right? There's it's not necessarily a one-to-one reaction.
Or an immediate, right? Like you might, like sometimes, and I think that's where people give up on it too quickly. That's the other, advice I would say is that, you put one post up there and it doesn't go viral. That's not like, oh, see, it didn't work. I knew it wouldn't work.
Right.
Right. And that's what a lot of people do too, is they give up way too soon when something doesn't work. And unfortunately nowadays, what social and some of these platforms have done is made us feel even more inferior, because the people we see are people getting 800 million likes and that sort of thing. If you're doing this solely for that end game, you'll never win. You'll never win. I mean, unless you're like one of those people, but that's not the norm for most people. You have to, it's just a constant thing, and you have to do it for the reasons that it fills your cup, not because I'm trying to get something in that way. So I'm really passionate about people understanding that sales and marketing. I mean, I don't have a marketing degree. I'm basically just said, hey, this is what makes sense to me. And most of that just comes from, years and years in sales to say, well, yeah, that makes sense to me, that this would be the approach.
It's terrific information for everybody out there. Needs to go back and listen to what April just said. She talked about imposter syndrome, and she talked about it not happening immediately, and she talked about giving to others to get. So,
Yeah.
3 super
What a
important.
great recap, Dave.
Thank you.
That was really good.
You have to remember those for the takeaways segment. That's
right. That's right.
There you go. There you
I
go.
think we'll both be surprised to learn I'm an introvert as well.
Oh, now that I do know is a lie.
Yeah.
See, and here's the difference. Like for a lot of people who may not know the difference. Well, first of all, Lori is one of my most favorite people in the world, and we've become good friends through the years. But she is a true extrovert, right?
Really.
We'll go to a conference, and like when the conference is over, she's like, "Now what? Where are we going? What are we doing next?" Like, she's all jazzed up, and I'm like, "I'm going home to put sweatpants on for a week and not talk to anybody."
Yeah.
So that's really the core. Like, if anyone wonders, like, what's really a difference between an introvert and extrovert, it's really being around people. Does it give you more energy, or does it drain your energy? Right? Like, and it fills my cup, but I'm like, but it drains me at the same time. So that's why I am technically truly an introvert.
Yep.
Amazing.
I totally agree. I don't drink alcohol anymore, but events like NADA and Digital Dealer and things, I get a people hangover. After
I bet.
Not that I don't love everybody that I meet there and get to chat and you have amazing conversations, but like you said, April, at the end of it, man, I don't want to go to those after parties. I need to go home and be alone for a bit.
Well, and I used to do stuff like before I got to the corporate level, like I found myself like always, on the weekends, I want to go do things, or when I get a day off, I want to go do something. And now at the corporate level, because I'm so overstimulated and peopled all the time, like my weekends now, I'm like, people are like, you want to do something? Like,
nope.
No, I'm not doing nothing. I'm gonna go to Pilates. I'm gonna go home and do laundry. I'm like be around nobody. Like, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how and part of that's probably just getting older or whatever too. But I really think a lot of it is just like babies can be overstimulated. I think sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
exactly.
No doubt. And so to round this segment out, somebody is they have their personal brand going. They've made the good distinction between their personal and their personal brand when they have attached to the company. What are some things that they can do to help the company? Because the reality is we can give all the great information out there. There's still companies on the vendor partner side and on the dealership side that are going to go, that's all sounds really cool, and I wish my people would get out there and tout my company more, but I'm not going to let them do that. So what are some things that they can do to hopefully make those companies feel a little more comfortable about what they're doing?
One, trial and error, right? Like, let your people try stuff, and if it doesn't, if they go out and do stupid things at a conference, then they don't get to go again. And if they go out and do things that they shouldn't be doing, like, you have to give them a little bit of rope, right? Enough that they can hang themselves. And if they hang themselves, then they lost that. But as far as there's a lot of unintended advantages for me that I didn't realize in going out and starting down this, personal brand thing that I honestly didn't try to do. It just kind of, again, organically happened. But huge unintended advantage for me is that no longer do I have to take every call to look at a new product or every pitch or every whatever, because I now have a network of people that if I have a problem, I can just kind of post it out in the universe and say, hey, people, here's my specific issue. Who do you recommend I talk to?
Right.
Oh, and by the way, when I do get introduced to talk to somebody, I'm now not talking to the janitor or the entry level person at the company. I'm probably talking about to somebody who has a little bit more skin in the game, is a little bit more elevated, which means a lot of different things. I can get maybe different things done, or we can tweak the plan a little bit more, or, even pricing sometimes can be negotiable at a better way, because I'm not, dealing with that first level person. And then also problem solving. There's things that dealers just can't do. We don't have a direct line to Google, as an example.
Right.
So I'll give you an example of something that happened last week. And had I not had a brand that allows me to reach out and say, somebody please help me. I don't know who can help me, but somebody please. One of my stores, my Horn Mazda store, inside their Google business profile, it all of a sudden said located in Tempe Acura, which is a whole nother dealership, right? And when you clicked on it, it went to that other dealership. I have no control to change that. That's not something we control. That's something that Google just does. So as a dealer, what am I supposed to do? Now, most dealers end up spending hours and probably days trying to solve this problem. And me, I'm like, somebody help me. Please help me, right? And somebody does, right? So it's this massive unintended advantage of networking that we don't always realize that benefits my group hugely. You want to talk about time efficiency? Yeah. I now know somebody, and if I don't know somebody, that somebody knows somebody that can help me figure it out, versus me sitting over here for 3 days wasting time trying to do it myself.
Yeah. Right. I love it. I think that's so true. And then I think for if you're just thinking dealership employees, I think like April said, have them try it, but you can honestly tie ROI to a personal brand very easily. I can tie literally hundreds of thousands of dollars that have been brought in through vendors back to LinkedIn. So I would say maybe for some of your sales associates, have them try for 3 months and then go back as a sales associate. If you're trying to get your personal brand going in the dealership, go back and say, this many sales came into our dealership from people asking for me in the dealership or reaching out to me on LinkedIn. No dealer in the world is going to look at money that's been brought in by someone's personal brand and say, we don't want you doing this anymore. So just become strategic about tracking and following how much money you're actually bringing in. And it's not even dealerships, vendors, anywhere. How much money have you brought in through this personal brand? And if you've brought in additional sales, I can't think of one general manager that's going to be like, I don't want you doing that anymore.
Yes. Stop making us money.
Stop making us more profit every month. It's it's not going to happen.
And the reality is that those deals that are coming in through those connections that way are probably higher gross deals than deals off the street.
Totally.
Always.
Right.
And to April's point, on the other side, she's getting possible vendor discounts. So you're getting it on both sides. You're getting more profit and you're putting less out through these connections. So
I had an advisor at one of my stores that he was the advisor that people walked in and went, hey, is Dennis here? No, he's not here, but what can I help you with? That's okay, I'll come back. And they would leave, right? They would leave and come back when Dennis was there.
Yeah.
And Dennis obviously was the highest earning service advisor because people asked for him. But Dennis typically gave the least amount of discounts of any of the advisors, even though he wrote the most amount of money. And he typically had charged the customers a little bit higher, right? On top of the fact that he didn't give a discount, because the customers trusted that he was doing the right thing for them, right? So they were willing, the value was there in the service that they were getting from Dennis.
And Peter Smith had said in the comments, it's all about trust. And it is. It's all about trust. Melissa's saying it's all about relationships. I mean, trust, relationships. Those are the two. That's the holy grail.
Absolutely.
It is. And I think from a standpoint of individuals at the stores, the easiest content to put out to start with, because I think that's always the other thing too, is where do I come up with content? What am I supposed to put out there? Education is huge.
Yes.
Customers, there's so much customers don't know and understand that dealerships take for granted that customers know and understand. There's times I hear them using lingo that I'm like, a customer has no idea what
RO is.
QR is, right? Like they know like the acronyms and stuff that we use, and we use it so like we do it all day every day. But most consumers, right, they only buy a car every 3, 4, 5 years now, sometimes even longer with the pandemic. So they haven't gone through this process. They don't understand what it means. And then there's all this new technology, and people don't know how to pair their phone. So how to make it easy on them for the new vehicles that have come out, and not have them go to YouTube and see some other dealership in Kansas showing them how to do it. Right. Why not have it be you're the source showing them how to do things, showing them what the process of bringing their car in for service looks like, or what their process is to schedule service appointments, or what are the things that we do behind the scenes, the Wizard of Oz, like what are those desk guys doing back there. I think there's a lot of value in educating customers, and that builds that trust and transparency, and that then people want to do business with you. So to me, that's one of the easiest content places to go immediately is to educate.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know if either of you have seen her content, but Mary Rice, the dealer principal of Toyota of Greensboro on LinkedIn, that is what all of her content is. She's going through the different cars and showing different features that they do. And the other day she lined up like 4 different SUV models and said, this does this, this does this.
So cool.
The differences in them. And that's content that people like, because not everybody knows. I mean, I'm in the automotive industry, but I'm not a Toyota person. She showed me some things that I went, oh, that's pretty cool that it did that. I had no idea. Right.
Right. And from the algorithm perspective, I know we don't like algorithm talk, but educational content and how-tos is number one in terms of the algorithm pushing content. So not only are you making it valuable for the customer, but the algorithm loves that kind of content.
Awesome. See that organically.
You didn't even know, April.
I didn't even know.
And you didn't even realize you were on top of the whole algorithm situation.
All that fluffy duffy knowledge she has. All right, we are coming into segment 3. Segment 3 is brought to you by Parts Edge, power tool for your parts department. In segment 3, Kaylee Filio.
Happy birthday to her yesterday.
Yes, it was her birthday.
I feel bad. I missed her birthday.
Dave, how dare
well, you can say it now because we're always allowed to be late. This is automotive.
Yeah, and this is we recorded this the day before yesterday. Happy birthday,
Kaylee. This was actually on your birthday.
This isn't really live. All right, takeaways for people to go and start implementing the things that we talked about today. Before we talk about what they can actually use, what do each of you see the future looking like? Certainly personal branding is not going away. But how do you see it? How do you see it evolving?
Do you want me to grab this to start?
Go ahead. I mean, I have a space I want to go, but I need to articulate it. So
okay, I have a pretty clear direction. I think we're seeing the rise of the influencers, and we're going to see this a lot in automotive. You see this a lot in aftermarket parts. In fact, Erica Siestema has a company called Autofluencer, and she's essentially doing this for aftermarket. So microfluencers is basically like, we're not taking people who have hundreds of thousands of followers. Who are we looking at has 5,000 to 10,000 followers that are super engaged and love the things that you're talking about? And so I think one of the big trends I'm seeing is just more, these companies are more interested in these kind of what's called micro influencers. And it's more about the, maybe you have 5,000 followers, not 5 million, but those 5,000 are super engaged in the content. They're following. Jeff Hunter is a master at this.
Yes.
What are they showing? What are their followers doing? Are they buying product based on the suggestions? So that is like a really big trend I see coming.
Yeah, and I have some like negative worries about some of this, primarily focused around AI and my fear of where some of the AI is becoming so realistic that we start to say, well, wait a minute, that goes against that personal brand, and we start to now have a different ideal of brand because of fake brand. So I worry about, we talk so much about being authentic, and the micro influencer, that's why that is rewarding, is because it is authentic, yet we're stepping into a place where we're looking at having more and more fake things than ever before, and the ease of the fake, and how that will actually muddy out and potentially push out the authentic, because authenticity takes maybe this much time and fake takes this much time. So we can do fake, 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 fake. And how is that going to impact all of this in the near future, as fast as that area is growing? I definitely have some concerns. I mean, I've already seen people who, genuinely have believed pictures online that are 100% AI fake. So there's some of those things that I genuinely get a little bit nervous about as we move forward. And I think video is going to become more and more important, things like what we're doing right now. So it's like, I see you, I hear you, I'm more validated that it is you versus, a picture.
Yeah.
Totally. Dave, this is a whole nother topic too. We got to talk online dating at some point.
It's April, not to add to your concerns over AI, but I will tell you that using a free AI tool, I made a video of me, and you literally type in what you want it to say. You record 30 seconds of you saying a bunch of other things. And then it takes whatever you type in and creates a video. I created a 30-second video of me, and I brought my son in, who's 18, and I'm like, hey, what do you think about this? And I was talking about training, and he goes, well, other than the fact that it's boring, it's okay. And I said, totally AI, not even me.
Yeah.
He was literally freaked out.
And what he's not saying is his son is a video
yeah, he's also a video. He's also a videographer and editor. So
correct. So this is his field.
Yeah. And it was other than the fact that because I talk with my hands a lot, it was what it was saying. I had hand movements that didn't match what I was saying. So that was a little odd, but the talking, the lip movements, you could not tell it was not me.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff that worries me, because it's like, I worry more about the brand destroyers kind of going out there because of that, that one step forward, two steps back kind of idea, right? Like where you go out and try to do something and then somebody else takes you down because, I go out and say, I'm going to make an AI video of Dave Foy, and I'm going to have Dave Foy say this and, whatever. And I have real concerns about that. Like, to your point, your son thought it was real.
Right.
So how much non-real things are going to be out there that people are going to assume are real that can actually hinder some to brands?
Right. Yeah, we're going to have to all have some kind of code word that we say when we speak, so that
I think that's
it's not AI.
There's going to have
I was going to say the same. Like, I think the good news here, the silver lining is, as more and more of this happens, security measures will be put in place. Like the security of it will hopefully parallel right along with the growth of the AI.
Correct.
Right.
Hashtag the real Lori Halter.
That's right. No one can reproduce the real Lori Halter. Let's be honest.
All right. So, how about evolving trends in marketing itself that people should be aware of, whether that's in relation to their personal brand or not?
Well, I think as we were talking, video is just taking over. If you're not doing video on social, I mean, we've even considered doing video press releases now, right?
Yeah.
Because people just aren't reading things anymore like they used to. The internet's created a situation where people have about 30 seconds of focus. And so I would say my top is we're not even talking social media, like across the board. If you're not doing video, you're way behind. It's time to catch up. Yeah,
I totally agree. And I do I meet with a team every week on Clubhouse, the human side of AI. And I do believe that AI is a big aspect of things going forward and things we have to be careful of, but is also causing a lot of pivot. I mean, you start to just look at things with Google alone and how they're moving away from this idea of SEO to now going to a one answer type of solution where AI is going to say, well, I'm going to take all the SEO stuff and then I'm going to tell you here's the best of the best, and just putting that up front. I think AI is going to, both good and bad, create so much quick pivoting in marketing over the next 3 years. I mean, it already has, but even more so, because I look at it like this. If somebody says, oh, I can do all of these things for you and it's going to cost X, and let's just say $300. And another person tells me, oh, I can do all of those things and it's the same things, but they say it's going to cost $1,500. That 300 thing is not necessarily the better deal. It's probably AI and automated and may not garner the same ROI and results. So dealers who are already bad about understanding all these things, if they want to be, ahead of the game, and if they want to make sure that they're not getting taken advantage of, they really need to start understanding how this stuff works and asking the right questions so they can peel those layers back to understand those two products were not apples to apples. Yeah. They were apples and oranges based upon what the actual results might end up being. So I think that for me, that's the biggest thing we've got to do is dealers got to get better about educating. We do. We got to learn this stuff.
That is terrific. I got to tell you, you two have been throwing out so much knowledge. I forgot to do two things that I do in every single show, which is the quote of the week and the stat of the week. So
we'll do it now. What's the quote of the week?
Do it right now. Here's your quote of the week. Brought to you by Parts Edge. Your personal brand is a powerful tool that shapes how you are perceived professionally. It's the narrative that you write and the legacy that you build. That is from Joy Rios, host of Hit Like a Girl podcast.
I love that. I love the legacy you build line.
Yeah.
So good.
You can steal that quote because it's hers.
But I'll credit her as we discuss.
Yes, credit her. Exactly. All right. And now we go right into stat of the week. Brought to you by AWN Inc. 71% of professionals believe that a strong personal brand increases opportunities. And that was from a LinkedIn study that was done.
That other 29% needs to get on board.
Yeah, I don't know who those people were that they talked to, but
yeah.
All right. And so last question. 3 important things for somebody to start doing today for their personal brand.
Okay, I'll take that. I think number 1, just begin, right? Number 1, jump in, like we talked about. Number 2, take a little bit of time to determine what you want to be known for, and try to do a little bit of strategy behind that. And then the third would be, and I may be stealing April's because this was her idea, but just jump into the comments. If you're scared, just jump into the comments. I'd say those are the 3 takeaways from me today.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. The one thing I will say with the begin, it can be overwhelming when you say begin, where to begin. Because nowadays there's 900 different platforms. Right. So when you begin on the one you're most comfortable with. Like if you every day, like when I go to like scroll where I'm going to scroll, if you're on TikTok, then start there. If you're on Facebook, start there. If you're on LinkedIn, start there. Start with the platform you're most comfortable with, because that'll at least take away some of that learning curve on the platform itself. When you're trying to think about who and what you want to be, I think that's hard, for a lot of us to like look in the mirror. So maybe ask, 5 of your closest friends, what do they love most about you?
Yeah.
Or go and look at, reviews of you, through your business. What is the common theme? So that you can find out like what you are known for, because I don't think most of us know that. And so, reach out, because I do think that's important, so that you kind of know that this is my this is my real opportunity and my real showcase to kind of put out there. So I love that. And then yes, comments. I think engaging. If you want to build a personal brand, you have to be personal and you have to give to get. So get out there and pour into other people, because as you do that, they will pour into you.
Excellent. 6 terrific points that people can take to go and build their personal brand today. April and Lori, thank you so much. I am grateful for your time today. April, enjoy your vacation next week.
Yes. And thank you, Dave. How fun to be on. You're 2 of my favorites in the industry. So thank you for having me on today. What a great interview.
Yes,
so much. And we will be back next Thursday with Price Shopping, where we will have Joe Gibson from IntelliCheck and Kathleen Long from Repair Pal.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Perfect.
We will see everybody next week.